Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at silver. It is time for another update, and we will also be taking a quick glance at gold to provide a quick update of the structure, what we are looking at the moment, the roadmap we can expect, especially since I believe it can still have an impact on silver as well. Now, on this chart we have been tracking quite clearly this primary expectation of still continuing to higher prices, as on the larger time frame the structure doesn't seem particularly complete to me. This movement to the upside doesn't seem too full. I would strongly prefer to form at least one more high within this as a wave 5, within this larger ending diagonal in the wave C. This means that within the wave 5 itself, we expect to build a 3-wave pattern. This would still take us to new all-time highs, but this is certainly going to make the internal structure we would be tracking considerably more difficult to follow. Why is that? Well, especially because a wave A can be a 5-wave pattern, right? We have this green scenario that we are tracking in this idea, but then it can also be only a 3-wave pattern, which is what we are tracking in the orange scenario instead. Then if it manages to follow through within the green interpretation, great, we will have even a larger trade setup for a wave B before extending to even higher prices within a wave C. But if it builds only a 3-wave pattern, well, our life is going to be rather difficult identifying a more clear trade setup, at least from this time frame's perspective. Now, we go into the smaller time frame where so far we have been rather focusing on this idea of a wave C in orange, because the structure that has so far formed internally seems more likely at this point to be building a 5-wave pattern than a 3-wave pattern. Not only that, but we would also have larger expectations for a wave 3. We would like to reach higher levels. For example, in the wave C in orange, we are looking to reach only the 100% extension of the wave A. That sits at $97. In the wave 3 in green, we would like to reach 138.2% extension of a wave 1, that is at $109. Then there's the difference that within this green scenario, we would have to track a leading diagonal, meaning that within the wave 3, we would expect to be building a 3-wave move. That's enough for now of this time frame. We can rather focus instead on the smaller time frame, where even though we are still primarily focused on this wave C in orange, this does not leave opportunity completely out, because we are still looking to extend higher within this structure. If you remember, in the previous video, we have been tracking this wave 3 to ideally build internally an ABC pattern, right? Because the wave C in orange is also a diagonal structure. It is an ending diagonal, since within the wave 1, we had failed to build a 5-wave pattern, right? This was an ABC structure in a wave 1, so we have been looking for an ABC structure within a wave 3. Also in the previous video, we were looking for this wave C to extend to higher prices. We hadn't even formed this internal top, so we were looking potentially for direct continuation to higher prices within this wave 3 internally. That may have followed through. I rather believe it not to be the case actually, as I can only see 3 waves up. But nonetheless, we have managed to build our expected larger wave 4 correction. Yes, even though we could have seen direct extensions to higher prices within this as a wave 3, we were highly preferring that before we would form a more substantial top within this larger wave 3 and complete this wave C, we would get a larger wave 4 correction and one more high within wave 5. So this seems to have actually been the case. I believe we may have an overshoot even after this wave 3, and we may have actually topped here, but the structure actually wanted to follow through in getting to that level of resistance we have been highlighting so much. And you may be wondering why that level of resistance was so important. Why were we looking to likely start a larger correction of this as a wave 4 in orange from this region? Well, it is rather simple. It is because we have previously formed substantial tops at this level. Right? We have pushed into this area, we have gotten rejected, and it wasn't an easygoing rejection. This was in fact a 30% drop. What happened afterwards? Well, we did manage to get through this level eventually, right? We only formed a tiny correction here. We got through, and then we started this large movement to the downside. We pushed up. We found resistance at this level once more. What happened afterwards? Well, we are looking at another over 30% drop from this level. This level, this area, has been difficult to get through previously. It would have been rather expected than not to have some difficulties getting through this level once more. So we were expecting to form this as a more substantial top within a wave 3 in this area, to start a larger wave 4 correction afterwards, and as we were looking for the wave 5, we were considering that quite possibly we would get into the next level of resistance, the next strong structural resistance we have had, which is this secondary top, right? We have gotten through this level once, but then not long after, we have gotten rejected once again. We can expect this to be a quite likely region to form a more substantial top within this wave C in orange, and if you remember what I shared a moment ago with you, the ideal target of the wave C in orange is the 100% extension of the wave A. It doesn't need to get there, but that sits just above this structural resistance level. I wouldn't be surprised, even if we get to it, that we would only manage to get a week past this level and then get a stronger rejection, and since this is a diagonal structure, a sharper correction could be even expected. Now, enough of that, let's get into the internal structure. I'm sure a lot of people are interested in what we can expect next, and as I was saying, we have to consider the possibility of this being an actual overshoot. I might like this wave 3 to have topped here better. I might like this wave 4 correction to be currently still ongoing, and yeah, we don't even care too much about the internal structure. I'm watching more specifically the area of support for a wave 4 part of this larger wave C. Additionally, this wave C, I believe I already mentioned this, but this wave C is an ending diagonal. That is what we are tracking. So in terms of support for such a structure, we are watching the levels between the 23.6% retracement, and I drew this wrong because I used the actual top. So the 23.6% retracement, $84.5 down to $78 at the 61.8% retracement. It's actually $78.4, something like that anyway. So if I am actually to consider the wave 3 to have topped here, I don't even need this wave C actually, I can track this as a wave A down here, a wave B up, and this would be my wave C to the downside. This wave C can actually still work out even within the idea of an impulse, I believe, but I wouldn't be too set on that. I am generally looking to build a 5-wave pattern in this structure. I will caution you that it is not certain that the wave 3 has stopped here. It is actually possible to track the wave 3 quite differently. We had the wave B as a triangle previously, where we were tracking the wave B completion to be here. It could be that it was instead an ending diagonal and it would be something like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, in which case, from this top, I would only expect a 3-wave pattern. This would allow the structure to complete a little bit more early, and I'm not happy either to have this lack of clarity. Which is why I'm not personally trading these timeframes. I am more zoomed out. I am looking at a bigger picture, and I'm still looking for this wave 5 to still likely form. Now, we know that if we break the levels of support, however, there is a good chance this entire structure would fail. Not a guarantee, but it would not be a good sign for this structure. And in terms of the internal correction, we can give a guiding count, a roadmap, but as it is within such a small time frame, it could very well be building a slightly different pattern. And at this point, I would probably still focus on the idea of an impulse to be information. I would be watching for this wave 3 to then form one more low before having a more substantial bottom in place. And if it doesn't, we would still have some relevant levels of resistance we could be tracking, more specifically up to the 61.8% retracement of this structure, as I would likely need to consider an ABC pattern to have formed here instead. So $87.3. If we manage to get a sustained break above that, we might have already bottomed. I'm not denying the possibility of this being a bottom, but typically within a wave 4 part of a diagonal structure, I would much rather prefer to build an ABC pattern. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes maybe the wave C is simply missing a leg down, but let's focus on what we have at hand here. And yes, since this would be still a possible impulse, I would be tracking something along the lines of a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And for this, it's not perfectly clear where we would be watching the levels of resistance at, but I'm watching here up to $86. If we manage to get a sustained break above this, we move to the next tier of resistance. This is going to be a difficult pattern. It's within a very small time frame, and it is within a larger ending diagonal where we may have very well just formed an overshoot in this structure, right? It doesn't matter whether we like this or not, we have to accept it. We have to accept it's going to be difficult, which is why I am personally zooming out. If you want, we can even have a quick look at the different pattern that could be emerging in this movement to the downside. Although I don't like it very much, it would be for a wave 3 top here. We would have an ABC structure where the wave C would be an ending diagonal, and then resistance would be going slightly higher. But even then, resistance would be primarily within the same levels I have already shared with you. I would be watching up to $86.7. We would have touched the 38.2% retracement in this scenario as well. And by the way, if this structure is to extend directly lower within this wave 3 to the downside in an impulse, we might even have a top in place, right? There's a 3-wave pattern we can identify. It doesn't need anything more, but this would be only within the area of a wave 3 already being in place here. Because if it weren't, I would have to track this as a larger wave 2, and I would expect typically a larger wave 4 correction as well. Now, we will stop here on the silver chart. Let's take a look at the gold chart. Just a brief look, as I was saying, a quick glance. And in this structure, it's been struggling, all right? We have a quite reliable pattern. We have a triple 1-2 setup, basically, we can identify, but it's failing to move higher. I'm watching for direct continuation to higher prices this white structure. I would see a wave 3 to possibly be forming quite directly as long as $4,664 hold, the 78.6% retracement in white. And then if that fails, well, I might need to expect at the very least a reset within this red WXY pattern where this could instead build something like an A, B, C movement to the downside, ultimately creating a reset within this wave 2 in yellow. Nonetheless, this chart is still quite bullish. If the white scenario fails, we move to the next levels of support. If even this as a wave 2 fails, we can move to the next levels of support, the larger degree, for a reset of the larger wave 2. But for now, this is not being suggested to be the case, and for now we can expect still continuation to higher prices within the area of an impulse, potentially within a wave 3, yeah? Preferably even. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoyed the content and want to support it directly, check out the channel membership, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.